That's right.
This carbon tax isn't going to be one rule for all. It's a special deal, a special break for different industries, for different groups, for different voters. They're going to not make us all pay the same rate. No, they're going to give breaks to trade-exposed exporters, maybe, and to domestic-exposed employers, maybe, and to low-income earners, maybe, and to medium-wage holders, maybe, and to our friends, our fans, and our marginal seats.
Maybe.
And we don't want that.
It's another chance to crony up the country. Now, like any endeavour, science is human, and it can be exploited, and it can be corrupted, and it has been.
Yeah.
It was ripe for the picking. It had a brilliant brand name. Thanks to vaccines, we have saved millions of people. Thanks to penicillin, most of us are alive today. So cheers to science, ladies and gentlemen. Real science, that's right. Science that comes with evidence, and evidence means observations. Now, ladies and gentlemen, they want us to pay billions to change the weather.
Why?
It's time to tell them no.
No.
No, thank you. No, we don't want it. Ladies and gentlemen, the witch doctors are at work. For tens of thousands of years, they have been saying, pay us your tithe, we will stop the storms.
Yeah, bullshit.
They swapped the rune stones and tea leaves for simulators and models. They still can't predict the weather 3 weeks from now.
That's right.
There are white lies and big lies and lies that matter.
And red
Back
lies.
in August 2010, Julia Gillard obviously thought we didn't want a carbon tax. If she'd thought that, she would have run her campaign to offer one, wouldn't she?
That's right.
Instead, she thought we'd want an ineffectual climate commission and the certainty of knowing there'd be no carbon tax for at least till another election was held.
That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was an election that went down to the line 72 seats, and Corangamite a mere 400 voters. If they had been told we were going to get a carbon tax, if they'd changed their mind, it would have changed the government. This is deception writ large.
Of the worst kind.
And it's not how democracies are supposed to act.
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, government is a self-propagating organism. It will grow until something stops it growing. What stops it growing? We do.
We will.
The government will get as big as we let it. They will take as much as we put up with, as much as we can give. If we don't say no, they will just ask for more, won't they?
Kick him in the ass!
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Do we want a carbon tax?
Axe the tax. Love the planet. Guard our freedom. Thank you very much, Joe. David, by the way, one of the people I've asked for evidence is Will Steffen. He's paid by us on Julia Gillard's Climate Commission in reference to the 31,000 scientists who signed the petition against effectively any carbon tax. He said there's no credible scientist on it. A complete falsity paid for by the Rudd-Gillard government.
He should be ashamed of himself.
David Evans is outspoken and direct. He knows where he stands, and he says it like it is.
He should be ashamed of himself.
He was one of the chief modelers on the previous government's carbon modelling system. So he was getting money, he was in it up to here. But he's a scientist, so he started asking questions, and he realised it was all a fraud.
Fraud!
This man then didn't keep taking the government checks. He started speaking out about it.
Yeah. He got the sack.
And he's still speaking out about it.
Yeah.
There are two other things I want to mention about David. First, a very respected, internationally eminent scientist told me just recently that David is perhaps one of the 5 top computer modelers in the world. He knows what he's talking about. The other thing is that David understands the financial drivers that are driving this scam. David Evans.
Ladies and gentlemen, The debate about global warming has reached ridiculous proportions. It's full of micro-thin half-truths, exaggerations and misunderstandings. I'm a scientist. I was on the carbon gravy train. I understand the evidence. I used to be an alarmist. Now I'm a skeptic. Righto? Okay. The idea that carbon dioxide is the main cause of the recent global warming is based on a guess that was proved false by empirical evidence in the middle of the 1990s. But by then the gravy train was too big, with too much riding on the outcome. There were jobs in science and bureaucracy, obviously. There was the renewables industry. There were profits in trading carbon credits. There were political careers. There was government control over energy use, and even the possibility of world government.
Yes.
So rather than admit that they were wrong, the governments and their tame climate scientists now outrageously maintain the fiction that carbon dioxide is a dangerous pollutant. Let's be perfectly clear. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. And other things being equal, the more carbon dioxide there is in the atmosphere, the warmer the planet.
Yeah.
Every bit of carbon dioxide we emit warms the planet by a tiny bit. The question is not whether carbon dioxide warms the planet, it's by how much. Most scientists on both sides of this agree on how much a given increase in atmospheric carbon dioxide raises the planet's temperature, if just the extra carbon dioxide is considered. These calculations come from laboratory experiments. The physics has been known for over a century. The disagreement comes about what happens next. The planet reacts to that extra carbon dioxide, which changes everything. Most critically, the extra warmth causes more water to evaporate from the oceans. But, and here's the crucial question, does this extra water hang around and thicken the blanket of moist air in the atmosphere, or does it simply create more clouds and rain? Back in 1980, when the carbon dioxide theory started, no one knew. The alarmists assumed that it would increase the height of moist air around the planet, which would warm the planet even further, because moist air is the main greenhouse gas that keeps the planet warm. This is the core idea of every official climate model. For every bit of warming due to extra carbon dioxide, they claim it ends up causing 2 more bits of warming due to the extra moist air. The climate models amplify the carbon dioxide warming by a factor of 3. So 2/3 of their projected warming is actually due to extra moist air, and only 1/3 is directly due to carbon dioxide. I'll bet you haven't heard that before because they don't tell you that. But that's the core of the issue. The alarmist case is based on this guess about moisture in the atmosphere, which produces frightening global warming in their models. In reality, there is simply no evidence for this amplification. And there never was any such evidence. The alarmists figured that the evidence would come along later. Well, later arrived, around about 1995. Weather balloons, as Joanne mentioned, have been measuring the atmosphere since the 1960s, many thousands of them every year. Now, the climate models all predict that as the planet warms due to the extra carbon dioxide, a hotspot of moist air will develop over the tropics about 10 kilometres up, as the layer of warm, moist air expands into a volume that was previously occupied by cold, dry air. Now, during the warming of the late 70s, the 80s and the 90s, the weather balloons found no hotspot, not even a small one. And this evidence proves that the climate models are fundamentally flawed and that they greatly overestimate the temperature increase due to our carbon emissions. Now, this evidence first became clear around the middle of the 1990s. At this point, official climate science stopped being a science. You see, in science, empirical evidence always trumps theory, no matter how much you're in love with your theory. If theory and evidence disagree, real scientists scrap the theory. But official climate science ignored the crucial weather balloon evidence and instead they clung to their carbon dioxide theory, which just happens to keep them in well-paying jobs with lavish research grants and gives great political power to their government masters.
We're paying for it.
They just want our money, that's all it's about.
There are now several independent pieces of evidence showing that the Earth responds to the extra warming due to the carbon dioxide by dampening, not amplifying, that warming. Every long-lived natural system behaves this way, counteracting any disturbance. Otherwise, the system would be unstable. The climate system is no exception, and now we can prove it. But the alarmists deny all this recent evidence and still say the exact opposite, as if it was still 1980, that the climate system amplifies any warming due to extra carbon dioxide and is potentially unstable. It is no surprise, therefore, that their predictions of planetary temperature, first made in 1988 to the US Congress, proved much higher than subsequent reality. Their models also failed the crucial test of predicting temperatures. And they keep lowering the temperature increases they expect. Back in 1990, they were talking about 0.3 of a degree per decade. By 2001, it had become 0.2 degrees per decade. Lately, it's become 0.15 degrees per decade. Yet, they have the gall to tell us it's worse than expected. These people are not scientists.
They're liars.
They overestimate the temperature increases due to CO2. They selectively deny evidence. And now, they conceal the truth. One way they conceal it is to mismeasure the temperature. The official thermometers are often located in the warm exhausted air conditioning outlets, over hot tarmac at airports, where they get blasts of hot air from jet engines,
On the freeway.
at wastewater plants where they get warmth from decomposing sewage, or in hot cities which are choked with cars and buildings. Global warming is measured in tenths of a degree, so any little artificial nudge to those thermometers really counts. The misrepresentation here is that they use selected thermometers in artificially warming locations and call the result global warming. They say that 2010 was the warmest recent year. But this was only true at various airports, near selected air conditioners, and in certain car parks.
I can do with some of the warming.
Global warming is also measured by satellites. The satellites measure nearly the whole planet 24/7 without bias. The satellites say that the hottest recent year was 1998, 13 years ago. And that since 2001, the global temperature has basically levelled off. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a question of trust.
I don't trust that.
Why does the Western climate establishment present only the surface thermometer results and never mention the satellite results? And why do they put their thermometers near artificial heating sources?
Because they're liars. They're liars.
This is so obviously a scam now.
That's right.
They want the money.
A scam on a scam.
The Earth has been in a warming trend now since the depth of the Little Ice Age around 1680. But human emissions of carbon dioxide were negligible before 1850, and nearly all come from post-World War II industrialisation. So human dioxide can't possibly have caused the trend.
What about in Canberra?
Within the trend, within this warming trend, the Pacific Decadal Oscillation causes alternating global warming and cooling for about 25 or 30 years ago in each direction. Now, we just finished a warming phase of about 25 years, a few years ago. So for the next couple of decades, expect mild global cooling.
It's getting bloody cold now.
And it's no coincidence.
That's right.